The decades-long standstill in U.S.-Cuba relations. CBS 2's Dave Carlin is here with more on that. Dave?
History in the making, Diane. President Obama face-to-face with his Cuban counterpart. And after his sit-down with Raul Castro, the president said after 50 years, it's time for something new.
Over time, it is possible for us to turn the page and develop a new relationship between our two countries.
First this handshake, then history made at this meeting between President Obama and Cuban dictator Raul Castro, beginning to thaw the frozen relations between Cuba and the U.S. But the president said it will be done cautiously.
We are not going to stop talking about issues like democracy and human rights and freedom of assembly and freedom of the press.
This took place on the sidelines of the Summit of the Americas in Panama. Leading up to the sit-down, the Cuban dictator spent 48 minutes dwelling on a century's worth of differences with the U.S., but surprised some with these comments about Obama.
President Obama had no responsibility with this. There were 10 presidents before him.
The U.S. and Cuba severed diplomatic relations in 1961, 2 years after forces led by Fidel Castro overthrew the Cuban government. President Obama has not yet said whether the U.S. will remove Cuba from its state sponsor of terror list, which restricts Cuba's access to the U.S. banking system and American-made arms. But he said he now envisions more commerce and interactions between the U.S. and Cuba, and an American embassy in Havana and a Cuban embassy in Washington, D.C. Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen said she was not happy to see the president extend his hand to Castro.
To validate and legitimize that regime by that handshake sickens me, and it sickens former political prisoners, people from all walks of life.
I don't like the relation with Obama and Castro.
It's a beginning. I hope that it works out for the Cuban people.
Easier travel to Cuba for Americans is not a done deal. Only Congress can fully end the travel restrictions.